We have UW's head gymnastic coach and former Olympian Elise Ray here to talk to us, so let's give her a welcome.
Hello and Happy New Year. I love speaking at any whole U event because I believe so much in what they're doing. So I hope there's something valuable that you walk away with today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself just to start, so hopefully there's a little bit of weight behind my words, maybe. I competed in the 2000 Olympics for gymnastics, which was, my God, lifetime ago. I've been coaching at UW for a total of 8 years now. So the first 5 I was assistant, and then this is my 3rd season as head. So I was lucky enough to interview for the position when it opened and got the head coaching job. So it has been a ride for the past 3 years, getting used to that adjustment, assistant to head. So a little bit more about my background. I started gymnastics when I was 5. Maybe, as one does when they're in the sport of gymnastics. And so I feel like I have been in it all my life. I really didn't think that I was Olympic bound until maybe the year 1999 when I competed in the 2000 Olympics. So a lot of people think that when you're an Olympian, you have this dream of the Olympics from when you are born. But that wasn't the case for me. We'll talk about this a little bit today, but having that big, giant goal, this big, I'm going to make the Olympics, was terrifying to me. And it put so much pressure on me and my family and everybody involved that I chose not to think about it that way. So I really took it very, very step by step, kind of naive almost. Like, I remember my coach having a sit down with me one day and saying, so it's time that we sort of think about which direction you'd like to go in gymnastics. Like, this route is, a college scholarship and an awesome route, but maybe a little less intense. And this route is the Olympic route, and this route's intense. So it takes a decision to embark upon that intense of a journey. But I swear that wasn't until like 1998. It was so late in the game when you think about it in hindsight. But that was okay with me. I needed that kind of present moment, goal making. And so we decided to do it, and I wouldn't let my family talk about it. I wouldn't let my friends talk about it. Nobody could mention the Olympics because it felt too much. And I just made my little goals along the way. And all of a sudden, you're kind of at Olympic trials, and I felt so good. And I thought, like, well, this is it. I'm prepared. But I think I felt that way because I sort of kept it in check in a way. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. But one tends to think that you are born to be an Olympian, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it sort of develops as you go. And the belief in yourself sort of develops as you go. So my Olympic story is quite unique. So it's Sydney, Australia, and we finished 4th as a team, which we were following the 1996 Olympic team, which was the first women's gymnastics team ever to win gold. It was massive for the sport of gymnastics, massive for the US, and we were the next generation. Well, we finished 4th, so we were the big old disappointment team. I'll tell you what, it was terrible. Everybody just wanted to like sweep us under the rug and let us get on with our lives, and it was heartbreaking. It was 100% heartbreaking because it was something that was the pinnacle of your career and did not go according to plan. 10 years later, sorry for that, I get excited when I talk about this. 10 years later, I get an email. Congratulations, Elise Ray, you're being awarded the bronze medal for your Olympic team in 2000. It was 2010, I was doing other things, I did my best to forget about that hard, difficult Olympic experience, and I got an email. So I called my coach. Is this for real? Is this like spam or something? Sure enough, it was discovered that the Chinese team, who had finished 3rd in our games, had competed underage gymnasts. So you have to be 16 to compete in the Olympic Games, and they were maybe 13 or 14, of which they looked, by the way. They all looked super young. So we were being awarded, and I feel so bad because the Chinese gymnasts probably had no say in whether or not they competed at that young age. Anyway, they stripped their medal and they awarded us. So I was flown to be honest, I can't even remember what I flew us into. Had a ceremony for us. They had the flowers of the Olympic Games that were presented. I mean, they tried to do the whole thing. And it was very bittersweet, as you can imagine. It brought up a lot of the heartbreak. We hadn't been together as an Olympic team in 10 years. There were a lot of faces within USA Gymnastics that I cared not to see again. But there we were, accepting our bronze medal in this official ceremony. So now I have one, and it's in my living room. I put it in a shadow box for a little while because I thought, well, I have a bronze medal now. Like, this is something. It stayed up for like a day because I could not look at it because it carries a lot of weight to it. So I will say that I love that I have it, and it's good for my resume. But to be honest, it doesn't truly feel like mine. And it was a big journey of mine to sort of let go of how my Olympic experience went, and even let go of how I ended up with this bronze medal. That's a lot, that's a big part of life, as you all know, sitting in these chairs. So that was a big journey of mine. So regardless, I'm an Olympic bronze medalist. Thank you. So after the Olympics, I went and competed gymnastics for the University of Michigan, and absolutely loved my experience there. I was a very heartbroken gymnast, deciding to go to college and 4 more years of gymnastics. I didn't know if I wanted to do it, given everything that had happened in Sydney. I decided to, and it was the best 4 years of my life. I fell in love with the sport again. I grew up as a young woman, all those things, which is a big reason why I decided to go into coaching and why I do what I do now. So in hindsight, you look back at things and it was meant to happen that way. So loved being in Ann Arbor for 4 years. After college, I went off to Cirque du Soleil, ran off with the circus, didn't know what else to do in my life. And I performed in Las Vegas for about 3 years. So I was in it's in the Bellagio, and then I was in Love, which is the Beatles themed show in the Mirage. So I did that for 3 years. Absolutely hated living in Las Vegas. It's the worst. Don't go for more than 2 days. But performing on stage every night and doing gymnastics, but in a much more artistic way, was some of the best three years I've ever had. It was so much fun. You go through this training in Montreal in order it's sort of a 6-month audition in a sense to get into Cirque. And they transform you from an athlete to an artist. And we'll talk a little bit about this in a second, but one big theme that I talk about a lot as a coach is being comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm sure you've heard this a lot. But talk about being uncomfortable for 6 months in Montreal when I'm a gymnast, which is very type A, do 10 of this, okay, I'm gonna do 10 of this, the best of my ability. Okay, now do 8 of this, okay. We're built like that. I did that for 20 plus years of my life. Well, you get to Montreal for the Cirque audition and, we're gonna do a clowning class. And we're gonna do a voice class. And terrifying, but the whole point of the 6-month audition was to break down the barriers as a type A athlete and build you into an artist, an expressive artist that takes your craft, which gymnastics was my craft, but make it into a show. So it was it was a really hard 6 months, but such a 6 months of growth. I miss performing for Cirque every day. It was an amazing experience, but my body kind of said, I think it's time to maybe tell people how to do gymnastics instead of doing it. My body was absolutely telling me that. So I kind of found my way back to Maryland, which is where I'm from after Cirque du Soleil, and kind of did okay, what's next? And this job at University of Washington as the assistant coach completely fell into my lap. The head coach at the time was my assistant coach at Michigan, so she was actually my coach. Had an opening here. Hey, are you interested? I said, no thanks. I'm happy in Maryland. My brother just had a baby. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't even think I want to coach. She said, hey, just come to Seattle for an interview, see how you feel. Came out here and absolutely fell in love with UW, with Seattle. I was probably here for half a day and thought yeah, this is my next step, but I'm terrified to do it. So I'm traveling across the country, I don't know a soul. but I've loved it ever since. Ever since like getting through that first year. That first year of transition is really hard, but after that, I'm so happy here, and I feel very fortunate to coach young women between the ages of 18 and 22 is one of my favorite parts about what I do. And I think it's because I did so much of my own growth within that time. I feel very, very fortunate. I have an amazing group of young women. So I'm a coach, but I'm very much a mentor as well, and I take that part of my job very seriously. So we'll talk a little bit about goal setting. Today we'll talk a little bit about motivation. Today we'll talk a little bit about being comfortable in that uncomfortable state, which is so good for growth. These are three themes that I talk quite a bit with my athletes. So goal setting. Goal setting seems really simple, but in order for it to be effective, it has to be done right. So on our team, every Monday morning, which is the start of our week, we start with our goal journals. So I have them write goals for the week. So they can be small, they can be large, they can be event specific, they can be personal, sort of whatever they need to sort of take that next step. In a small group, they talk about the goal, because I think that verbalizing a goal, big or small, or the intent of your goal, verbalizing it makes a really big difference than just kind of hiding it within yourself. It keeps you accountable. Sometimes, I'm sure you all know this, when you hear yourself talk, sometimes you have realizations, or you realize a different direction that you'd like to go. You can kind of sort things out within yourself if you just verbalize it. So we talk about our goals a lot, even though it's vulnerable, right? You set a goal, you're expected to reach that goal, it's vulnerable. But we talk also a lot about that it's okay if you don't reach it. Hey, roll it over, let's try it again. So Monday morning we write these goals, and then Saturday, which is the last day of our week, we follow up on those goals. So a huge part of goal setting is the accountability of that goal. And it doesn't necessarily mean, did I reach it? I'm good or bad because I reached that goal or didn't reach that goal. It has nothing to do with that. It's, did you have the intent of reaching that goal? Did you take a step in that direction? Because sometimes that's all you need is a couple steps in that direction. And I tell the girls this all the time, if you don't reach that goal, and I really encourage them, as I will you, to set lofty goals. Go big with your goals, why not? Then you set smaller, more manageable goals to get to that big goal. But why not set the goal that is really in your heart? Don't set the goal that you know you're gonna reach by this Friday, right? That can be a stair step towards your bigger goal, but set that big goal. So we talk about these big goals, and then we narrow it down and talk about, okay, maybe the 8 to 10 to 12, little steps, little goals along the way to reach that big goal. And this goes hand in hand with motivation, because if you set that big lofty goal, it feels very far away. Especially if you go for it and set the lofty goal, it feels very far away. If it's very far away, it doesn't necessarily feel attainable at that point. So you set these really small goals. Okay, my goal is to exercise 6 days a week. I want to make this a habit of mine and a change in my lifestyle to exercise 6 days a week. Well, if you're going from 1 to 6, that's a really big goal. So the first week, maybe you get 6 sessions in, but you're sore, you're tired, you kind of missed out on maybe some of the other things that you do during the week. So you're probably not going to roll over that 6 days a week again, because it's kind of uncomfortable. So your body wants to go back to its habit, which is maybe once a week. But let's stair step it a little bit. Okay, I want to eventually get to 6 days. Next week I'm going to try 2. Cool, that feels good. I feel energized. I'm a little sore, but the good kind of sore. I still have some time to do the other things that I like to do. I feel good. Okay, now I'm going to take it to 3. And maybe you stay at 3 for a couple weeks, because that's what feels good, until you're ready to move to 4. Or maybe you reach 5 days a week and you're like, no, I'm good. This is my happy place. I don't need 6. So you adjust. Yeah, so there's these little stair-step goals. So in gymnastics, with the athletes that I have, our national championship competition is in April. Our first competition is this Saturday in Nebraska. And if we're thinking about making nationals, right now, it feels completely overwhelming. It feels daunting almost. There's a whole amount of pressure that comes down on your shoulders. And what do? You tend to shrink up and you're then afraid of that goal. It feels too big, oh, I can't do that. The self-doubt starts to come in. But if we take one competition at a time, 1 week of training at a time, you make a goal for that week, cool, got it. Or, hey, I didn't get it, but I'm gonna roll it over and I'm gonna try it again. All right, here we are, week 2. What can I do a little bit better from the previous week? Then we blink and we're in March and you've reached 10 goals already, no matter how small, but it makes you feel much more confident and you have a much more belief in yourself for that big, massive April goal, or that big, massive, I'm gonna exercise 6 days a week now, right? So I encourage you to stair step in it. Make baby goals. Go for that lofty goal, write down that lofty goal, write it on a sticky note, paste it on your mirror where you brush your teeth every morning so it's in front of you, right? Teases you a little bit. You're gonna work out today? You're gonna eat vegetables today? You know, you're gonna say something positive to yourself today? It reminds you. It reminds you of your purpose. But then, you maybe refer back to your journal if you're writing them down. You maybe refer back to a family member or a friend about the small goal that you're just gonna try this week. And it's motivating, right? You guys all know, if you have a task that you're completing, you check it off, how good does it feel to check off that box, that little task that you completed well? Makes you feel good about yourself, creates a little bit of self-belief, and it's what? It's motivating to try another task, to add another task, to add another goal. Hey, I've reached a little goal. Awesome, I'm gonna go get that next one. Awesome, I'm gonna go get that next one. And then all of a sudden, you're halfway to your big, lofty goal that you didn't think you could reach. Okay, so stair step your goals. Make little attainable goals along the way. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is talk about it, like I said, but be in community about it. Talk to your friends about it, talk to your family about it. Open yourself up, be vulnerable, open yourself up to vocalizing that goal, vocalizing what you want, what that goal is, what you'd like to change about your 2019. Everybody has those goals, everybody has those desires, right? But can you be vulnerable enough to talk about it? Because then, hey, your friend's gonna say like, hey, how's that little goal of 2019 coming? And they'll share, and you'll share, and maybe you'll get a little bit of motivation from that. Maybe you'll get a little bit of encouragement from that. That's one reason why I encourage my athletes to talk in their groups about their goals. Hey, give me some feedback. What do you see me doing, right? Because we have a different vision of ourselves. We feel differently than maybe what others see. Hey, I'm seeing you do this. Is this part of your plan for your big goal? Like, do you want to talk about it? How's that feel? This is what I'm seeing. Or how can I help you break that old habit? Or how can I help push you along? You need encouragement to get into the gym today? Do you need encouragement to get up as soon as your alarm goes off? Whatever those goals are. That encouragement, right? It's hard to do it alone, especially with those big, lofty goals. But let people help you. Like, be open to it, talk about it, be vulnerable about it. And like I said before, write it down. Write it down, whether it's just in a little notebook, whether it's on a sticky note that's on your mirror, on the dash of your car. I do this stuff all the time. I have sticky notes everywhere. You know, you just need a little boost sometimes, right? A quote maybe that inspires you, or a sticky note that says, you got your goal last week, right? When you're frustrated, when you're tired, when you're like, oh, that lofty goal is feeling really far away. Look at that sticky note that says, you've already reached 4 of them. You're gonna get the 5th, right? A little reminder. But sometimes writing it down, it gets it out of your head. Yeah, and you guys know, as professionals, we spin, right? There's family life, there's work life, there's personal life. Our lives are busier than ever, and they're fast-paced. So take a second and let the world go and write it down. Write it down. Another thing that we do within our team is called Rip and Write. And so it's essentially the being cathartic about writing it down, like getting worries, getting doubts, anything that doesn't serve you, anything that isn't feeding you positivity and feeding you encouragement, write it down on a piece of paper. I'm feeling exhausted today. I don't think I can do this today. I'm feeling a little bit down on myself today. I really sucked in the gym today, right? Any of that stuff that circles in your head, write it down on a piece of paper, rip it up into a million little pieces, throw it out. It puts a physicality to what you want to get out of your head, right? Anything that's feeding you negative feedback, anything that doesn't serve you in your day-to-day life, we all have that, right? Write it down, rip it up, get rid of it. It feels very cathartic. I encourage you all to try that this week. Just try it one time. We do that before our competitions, just to kind of get that bad energy out of us before we fill our minds with positivity to go compete. So community, talking, writing it down, being open, being vulnerable, taking baby steps. Those are some really small ways that you can get those big goals. Another thing that bleeds into goals is motivation. How do we stay motivated besides writing down the little steps, talking about it? And I really encourage you to think about, when you're goal setting, you really want to take the time to think about the process of that goal. So the goal doesn't just exist in its own entity out here. There's a path that gets you there, right? There's a path, and you need to enjoy that path. You need to enjoy that journey, right? So it's not about the destination of your goal. I mean, it is, because you want to get it, right? But it's not always about that, because you may not get that goal, and that's okay, because there's a lot of good stuff along this journey, along this path, right? So think about the process of the goal, and the process of the goal is how you're going to stay motivated to keep going. And I promise you, if you make some positive changes in your life, if you take that first step, sometimes it just takes that first step. Like literally, okay, I'm going to get up every day this week on the first buzz of my alarm. Honestly, you guys, this is one of my personal goals. I have a 5-month-old, so I'm getting like 4 hours of sleep a night, but I still have to get up and work, and I hate feeling rushed, so it takes everything I have to like my leg out of bed, right? But I'm trying to create a healthy habit in myself, right? I'm trying to create a habit. I'm trying to create a pattern. So my body knows, whoop, I get up when I hear that buzz, right? But I'll tell you what, I've failed many more times than I've succeeded in this small goal of mine of 2019. But I'm trying to buy into the process of it because I really believe in this goal. I really want to do this because I really want to have that extra 15 minutes to like take a breath before I run out the door in the morning. So process, you've got to enjoy the process. And make sure that your goals are personal to you. What do you want? Not what society is telling you to accomplish, not what your coworkers or your colleagues are encouraging you to do. What do you want for a better 2019? Because the only way you're going to achieve the goals for you is if you believe in them and if you ultimately want them, right? Because the process could be long. It could be a year. It could take you all of 2019 to achieve this big goal. If we're going for big goals, which we're going for big goals, yeah, you have to enjoy that process. Another thing, and lastly about goals and motivation, is that you absolutely will have setbacks. It's not about, I hope that I make my goal on my first try. You probably won't. But hey, that's all right. We talk a lot about rolling over your goals with my athletes. If you don't reach it this week, hey, roll it over and get it next week. You don't get it next week, hey, roll it over to the following week. Let's talk about your process a little bit. Let's talk about your miniature goals along the way. Are they truly getting you to this goal? Are you reaching them? Are you motivated? Do you have self-belief in the process? Are you enjoying the process? Do you have joy in this process? So just checking that your goals are authentic to you so you enjoy that process, right? And that you have a little bit of self-forgiveness, right? If you mess up, I should say when you mess up, because you will mess up. You will stumble. You may not reach that second and third step, but that is the process. That is the process. And that resilience and that belief that you can bounce back and having that friend, hey, I have a hard time getting to step number 4 in my 10-step goal process. Help me. Can you help me? Any words of wisdom, any encouragement? Hey, yeah, let's get up tomorrow morning and work out together, right? So being vulnerable again and opening up to that. And just acknowledging your setbacks, acknowledging that you didn't reach that step 4, 5, or 6. But hey, having that self-belief, right? Having that goal, that big lofty goal, you want that bad. Yeah, having that sticky note in front of you as your motivation. That's gonna get you there. And it may not be on your time. Everybody wants it fast. Everything's fast, right? Everything's at our fingertips these days. But the goals, the big goals that matter, the big 2019 goals that you have right now, those big ones, you're not gonna get them overnight. But that's why you make little goals along the way. That make sense? Yeah, write them down. It helps a lot. Next, I want to talk about getting out of your comfort zone. So this is a little bit of a buzz right now, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And it's really, really easy it's easy for me to talk about it in terms of gymnastics, but let's talk about it a little bit in terms of life. So we all have patterns, and we all have habits. And I think humans are built to sort of get into a groove. We kind of like the expected. The unexpected feels scary. We don't like being in the unknown. But growth happens in the unknown. And growth happens in the uncomfortability. Yeah, so I encourage you to find different ways in your everyday life to make you a little bit uncomfortable. And then can you work through that process with self-care and self-love and self-acceptance? Whereas if you try it and you're like, oh, no, not today. I'm gonna try that maybe tomorrow again. Right, so I am very introverted. It's hard for me to walk into a party and really go for it. Even though I can stand up on this stage in front of you today, you put me in a different scenario, and I'm happiest like on my couch with my husband and my 5-month-old. But this is something that I need to do a lot in my job. I go to a lot of functions with 100 donors, and I'm just supposed to mingle with them. This is really hard for me. So I kind of have to make a game plan before these events. Okay, I'm gonna talk to 3 people right away. Go, just walk up, introduce myself, stick out my hand, and go for it. Because if I don't do it, I'm very happy being a wallflower. Very, very happy being a wallflower. It's really uncomfortable to me. And some days I'm okay at it, and other days I'm not. Other days I need to be a wallflower, and I'll try again tomorrow. Yeah? If you're really extroverted, can you find 5 minutes in your day just to be still? It's probably pretty uncomfortable for extroverts. Just to sit in your solitude, do a couple deep breaths. Pretty uncomfortable. Really good for you. So find different ways. Can you think about your patterns of your day and certainly keep the things that feed your soul and that feel really good. But maybe some of the things that you know you do that you can tweak a little bit that's really going to serve you, but you're hanging on really tight to it because it's habit, it's comfortable. Yeah, can you step out of that comfort zone? And it's like a muscle. Yeah, so every time you do it, flex a little bit more and get a little bit stronger in it. And maybe you'll try it a little bit more the next day. And by 2 weeks, if you're trying it a little bit every day, that muscle's gonna be pretty toned. You're going to have gotten better at it. And there's a lot of growth in stepping out of that comfort zone and just trying it. Again, it kind of comes back to vulnerability, doesn't it? So you're putting yourself out there. But there's a lot of growth in vulnerability. We talk a lot about gratefulness in our program. When our days are so spinny and they're fast and they're stressful, maybe you didn't reach that goal this week, and maybe you're tired this week. Maybe you tried to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, but you just couldn't this week, so you're maybe feeling a little defeated. 3 thoughts of gratefulness. Do something in your brain chemistry to change your demeanor, to change your thought waves, your thought process. And it takes 15 seconds. Having gratefulness journals are an amazing thing in your daily life. I encourage you to do that as well. So if you're writing down goals, every day just jot down 2 things that you're grateful for. It could just be walking down the street, having an able body to walk down the street. And it puts a lot of things in perspective too. Our human nature, we tend to be very self-defeating, right? You don't reach that goal, say something negative about yourself. Maybe you tried to do something uncomfortable and it just didn't feel good and you totally chickened out. Probably say something negative to yourself, right? It's all very self-defeating. Tuesdays of gratefulness, wow, can really, really change that mindset. Another thing about stepping out of your comfort zone is that self-love, that self-acceptance, right? Because you're putting yourself in a pretty vulnerable position. It's scary. It doesn't feel great. But hey, can you say something really positive to yourself in that moment? Even if you messed up and made a complete fool of yourself? Oh my gosh, I tried. I did it. I did the thing that I've been thinking that I was going to do for the past week. I actually did it today. And it didn't go according to plan. And I'm kind of scared to do it again. But hey, I'm pretty awesome for trying that. Self-talk and self-affirmations, if you will, they are unbelievably powerful. We talk about this a lot in sport, obviously, but affirmations, positive self-talk, they go miles in your everyday life. I tell my athletes a lot, hey, look at yourself in the mirror and say something positive to yourself. I am powerful. I am resilient. I am strong. And they kind of giggle, because if you think about it, like looking yourself in the mirror, looking yourself in the eyes, yeah? I do that before every job interview. To this day, I did it as an athlete. I would go to the bathroom before I competed, look myself in the mirror, and even if people were in there, I would just like say it in my head and look in my eyes in the mirror, but I would feel something. I do that for job interviews. I do that sometimes before I come into work, you know those days. But give yourself some love. Give yourself some credit for what you do every day. Talk to yourself as you would talk to a friend. You would never talk to one of your best friends the way sometimes your internal monologue runs. So a big umbrella over all of these things: goal setting, staying motivated, jumping out of your comfort zone. It's all umbrellaed by this self-acceptance, self-love, patience for yourself, right? Treat yourself as you would treat your friend. It will help in all of these processes. So I want to do a breathing exercise with everybody. All my extroverts are like, oh my gosh. All the introverts, yeah, okay. So, our days are so spinny, like I said, right? We are running from one thing to the next. You're probably sitting here right now thinking, okay, after this, I have this, this, and this. I need to squeeze in lunch. I need to make this meeting. Then I need to get home. Maybe get to my kids. Maybe get to my families. Maybe get to that workout class. You're spinning, right? If you can take 4 to 5 minutes, I'll even take 3. 3 minutes of breathing, whether it's just sitting in your car before you walk into the office, or taking a moment of solitude in this auditorium even, when we're done here. Just take a couple breaths. You'll return to your center, right? Your lost goals may come to surface again because you're just being still. That motivation may bubble up a little bit again because you're just sitting in the present moment without any attachment to that long-term goal. So, we're just gonna do it just a 60-second exercise. So everybody close your eyes. If you would like to have your palms face up, it's a gesture of sort of taking in what we're doing, but not needed. So, resting your eyes, try to soften the space in between your two eyes. Often crunches up when you're spinning, thinking, planning, to-dos. Just kind of sit in this space. And take 2 breaths on your own. So I'm going to guide you through some breathing, but on your own, just take 2 deep breaths. Whatever those inhales and exhales feel like to you. Just kind of arrive in this 60 seconds of stillness. You can take a second just to feel what the seat feels like under you, maybe what the air feels like around you in this auditorium. Just bringing you into the present moment. So we're going to do an inhale of 4 and an exhale of 6. And what this does is it triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. makes you basically just take a big giant. We're doing it 3 times. Here's number 1. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just stay with your eyes closed. Just notice if your heart rate maybe is slow, just a tad. And next, I want you to think of a word that you would like to bring into your 2019. Maybe that word is acceptance. Maybe that word is positivity. Maybe that word is resilience. Maybe that word is gratitude. And then I want you to think of a word that does not serve you, that you'd like to sort of get rid of. Maybe that word is attachment. Maybe that word is fatigue, busyness, fast pace. So we're going to inhale the positive word. You're going to feel it enter your body, enter your nostrils, into your nasal passages. Feel it fill your body, and then you're going to exhale that negative word out. Attach that negative word to an exhale so it physically leaves your body. We're just going to do this 3 times, and then we'll be the end of this small breathing session. So this is your first one. Inhale that word, breathe it in, and exhale that negative word. Yeah. Physically leave your body. Here we go, number 2. Inhale that positive word. What do you want more of in your 2019? Fill your body up. Exhale that negative word out. And last time, inhale. Feel it enter. Feel it fill you. Exhale. And just sit for one more moment. Enjoy the stillness of this moment before you go back to your busy day. And you can flutter your eyes open when you're ready. So sometimes just a nice, simple breathing exercise like that can recenter you, remotivate you to what you're going to do for 2019. What can I answer? What questions do you have? I'm thrilled to answer questions about my program and how we do things. Sometimes sport very directly relates to life. Happy to answer individual questions. Oh, I have a few. Yeah?
So what happens if you're not clear about the baby steps?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I would encourage talking to a friend, talking to a family member. If it's a goal, talking to a professional within that goal, do you know what I mean? So if you have a physical goal that you want to do, or if you have, I'm using these examples because a lot of people have exercise goals and they have nutrition goals in the new year, and those are kind of the easiest ones for me to say. But visit the gym. Say, hey, I want to do this. I want to be stronger. I want to have a stronger core. Right? What is that physical goal? And have them literally talk through the absolute steps necessary, especially if it's a field that you're not sure of. Right? Can you talk to someone within the nutrition field? Hey, I want to X, Y, and Z in my daily life, nutrition-wise. What are some baby steps that I can take in order to do that? But talk to a professional within that field. To have so that you believe in them, you believe in the baby steps, and they're not arbitrary baby steps, but you know that they're actually leading to that goal. Yeah.
How do you balance between goals that are kind of action goals that you have control over and results goals? I mean, if you're going to the Olympics, you can do everything right, but ultimately you may not make it right. There are things that are not in your control. So how do you, and yet you still may want some of those things. How do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, great question. I think my answer to that is to make sure that you're enjoying that process, because you're right. You may have some control. I had some control whether or not I was going to make the Olympic team. I could work hard. I could listen to my coaches. I could take care of myself outside of the gym. I could work on my mental game, right? All of those very concrete things I could do. But in the end, gymnastics is a sport that is based on judges' opinions of your routines. And that's one thing I could not control. At the Olympic Games, they set the vaulting table too low, which never happens ever, especially not at the biggest of the biggest Olympic competition. And I vaulted on it and fell flat on my back. It was, in hindsight, pretty dangerous. And what did I do? Blame myself. And actually it was equipment one. I had absolutely no control right? So I was hanging my Olympic dreams on winning an Olympic medal, I would be heartbroken, right? Which I was, yeah? But I would never have traded all of the training, all of the hard days, all of the process-oriented goals, all of the little competitions along the way that were so fulfilling to me, would have never traded that stuff. And that's one way I was able to get over such a heartbreak, that result-oriented goal, was because I really did have so much joy in the process of it. So really believing and buying into the process, and you know what, like letting go that you may not get that ultimate goal, but that kind of comes back to self-acceptance and self-love too, right? It may not happen. But does that make you any less of a person? Absolutely not. Because you tried to get that goal, but like live in the joy, live in the process.
I love everything you said. Did you have like a manual that was given to you?
Oh, thank you.
How do you come up with all that?
My own personal experiences and working with the young women that I work with now. Maddie, raise your hand. This is one of my athletes right here, Madison. She's one of our juniors. Yeah! She is a phenomenal young woman. But working with young women, like I said, I'm a coach, but being a mentor and a leader is very much a part of my job. Maybe a little bit more than even the technical, do this, do that, do this. And so I've done a lot of kind of self-reflection and reading and attending seminars to sort of organize all of that for them. So in the process, I've learned a ton, but I have a lot of experience to pull from too. And it's funny in hindsight because you sort of get these things to talk about, but then you think of your experiences back then. Oh, I wish I knew that when I was 17 years old. You know what I mean? So it's definitely been a journey, but thank you very much. Yeah.
Do you have any words of advice for people who maybe are working with someone else and sharing their goals, they're trying to reach something together, but at the same time they're enabling each other to not succeed, like, oh no, we didn't work out today, but that's okay.
Right, let's go get coffee.
How do you, and just perpetuating each other into not succeeding?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, and my biggest piece of advice is just to be honest, right? And it sounds like, both people probably know what's going on, and it's kind of the comfortable versus uncomfortable, right? It's really comfortable to stay within that buddy system and like occasionally not go and like go get breakfast, and that feels good, it's kind of fun, but then you're frustrated. You're kind of beat yourself up a little bit because you're like, oh, I know I should have A, B, and C, even though this felt good at the time. So it's kind of keeping that bigger goal in the forefront of your mind, but maybe being honest in the sense of like, hey, I love you a lot, but like this isn't working. And like probably they know it too. And that's a perfectly okay conversation to have, right? Are you guys familiar with Radical Candor, the book? Maybe some of you have read it. It is a phenomenal book, or it's on Audible too. But it's about just speaking your truth, basically, like speaking your mind, and maybe in a little bit of a blunt way, right? Given the name Radical Candor, but you're learning how to be very candid with people, whether you're a leader or in a relationship, anything like that. But the basis upon being able to do that is creating a foundation first of a relationship, a personal relationship with that person or that group or whoever you're trying to be radically candid with. So, but I really, really believe in that honest conversation, but just make sure that the foundation of it is solid first, right? If a stranger is radically candid with you, it's not going to go so well, and it's not going to feel too good. But if it's your person, if it's someone that you have a really good relationship with, you can talk through it, right? And like I said before, you probably both know what's happening, so just kind of like airing it out too, and then finding a new workout buddy, or like maybe doing a foursome, because then maybe the two other people are encouraging you guys, right? In a foursome, it's likely that one person's gonna be like, you guys, let's we need to do this, right? But just talking about it, airing it out. Yeah.
How do you teach a group of type A athletes to have balance and to not go?
Oh my gosh, good question. Maddie, great question, right? Oh my gosh, there are so many wonderful things about working with type A athletes. But you're right, sometimes I look at them and, we practice at 8 a.m. in the morning. So, I get them up and they work out for 4 hours, they take a quick shower, they go to class. Then they go to, training table, which is essentially the athlete's dinner. Then they have tutor. Then they go to bed at 9 p.m. because they have to get up at, you know what I mean? Which in a lot of ways, creating that healthy schedule is amazing. But the recovery of making sure you're recovering your mind almost is missing in that schedule. And we talk about that a lot. Last year, this is my third season as head coach, and we've made it to NCAA Nationals 2 times since I've been head coach. And thank you. I'm so proud of you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And the first year we went to Nationals, it was almost, there was almost like a naive thought process about it because we had never been. It was all very exciting. It was kind of like, ooh, let's just go for it, And they competed very well. Well, the second year when we made it, everybody was like this. Myself included, right? Like, we're back. We made it back. We have to do better than we did last year, right? And in hindsight, I wish that I would have encouraged the team to recover a little bit more and nurture the fun in their lives and nurture not just recovery of like sitting in an ice bath, but going for a walk in nature or going to take a fun dance class or like watching a movie with your friends, but something that recovers your mind from the very type A, right? And it was a big learning curve for me as a coach it's not always about, 4 hours a day in practice. They may need 2 hours of training and like 2 hours of like doing something that feeds their soul and their heart and like makes them laugh, right? And you guys can take away that too. It is so easy to go through your week and just A, B, C, D, E, whew, okay, go to bed, wake up, do it again, right? But what are you doing to nurture yourselves? What are you doing to like laugh every day and like cut up a little bit and get out of your patterns and hang out with your friends and something that soothes you? Because you're going to be more energetic. You're going to be happier, and all of those things are going to make you a better human to wake up and go into your week. So recover yourself, recover your mind, recover your heart, right? Make time. I don't have time for it. Yeah, you do. You do. You just make it a priority, right? You do have time. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So I'm curious about something, I'm sure it's part of the field of coaching, but in education, a lot of people believe there are certain folks that are more visually oriented or more auditory or kinesthetic and movement and so on. I'm guessing that most of movement is kinesthetic, but I don't think people also find use of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a video system in our gym, and it's on like a 25-second delay. So it films on every event. So it films, and then they can review it simply for that reason. So, it blows my mind when coaches have never done the sport, but they end up coaching in it, and some are phenomenal. I mean, the coach that coached me through the Olympics was a very low-level gymnast. So she never physically did any of the skills that I was doing, but she is a brilliant coach. That blows my mind because I coach based on how I felt the skill, or what I saw, or what I did, or right? But you're right, some athletes, that doesn't resonate with them. Hey, I felt this, so when you're in the skill, try to feel this, and they look at me, right? So then maybe I'll turn to the video. Hey, do you see yourself doing this? And there's actually, they have apps for everything. They have a coaching app You can film on and it breaks it down frame by frame by frame. You know, gymnastics is like you're doing, you know, 3 twists in the air in one backflip. It's fast. And when you're doing it, sometimes you can't feel it, obviously, because it's so fast. So you break it down for them, frame by frame. Oh, my body position, oh, my head, okay, I'm not seeing the floor, like things like that. And it resonates for them. But that is the challenge of coaching, is that there's, you know, one of me, and I have 2 amazing assistants as well, so different voices help. But 14 young women who are so different. And like, thank goodness that they're different and like they're individual selves. But it really takes a lot of creativity to get through to them. But I love that. I love that. And it's trial and error, for sure. But definitely not one approach. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, among your team, they may be competing with themselves and with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you create a team mentality when everyone's so different so they can do the best
Yeah.
on the team?
Yeah. Great question. Gymnastics is a really interesting sport too, because it's a team. We have 14 of us, and like team is the only thing that matters results-wise. But you're up there solo. Like, you're on a 4-inch balance beam by yourself, competing towards a team score. So like your individual, right? So it's weird. You're on a team and you're competing for the team, but you're not on a soccer field with, I don't know how many players on the field. But you're not on the field all together, right? You're up there by yourself. So to answer your question, we always preach team first. Team, team, team is first, right? And any personal goals, any personal drive that you have should be for the team. And it's a huge learning curve for freshmen, because they come in having competed solo and like for their team, but like it didn't really matter. But now it really is team. It's the only thing that matters. So there's definitely a learning curve. So I love to promote healthy competition within the team though. And hopefully by your culture and the language that you're speaking towards your athlete and your program, really, you're teaching them that healthy competition is good. It's good. It's okay to want to beat out your teammate, because we have 14 girls, but only 6 compete on an event at one time. So that's how I just cut the team in half, essentially, right? So there's a lot of girls just watching who want to be out there, but it's my goal as a head coach to have the ones on the floor watching as bought in as the one actually physically doing the exercise. And that's a lot of culture teaching, that's a lot of team building, it's a lot of trusting one another, and it's a lot of, and it's hard for females, especially in my opinion, is to want to beat someone out and like be okay with that. Like, I'm gonna get in lineup, I'm gonna beat you and get in lineup, but like a healthy competition way. But I think that, again, it comes from a foundation of trust, it comes from a foundation of, yeah, but our ultimate goal, the unity of our team, is based on how the team is gonna do, right? So it's okay of that healthy competition, because you trust each other, it's okay to like nudge each other a little bit, but how you speak about that to your team and how they speak about it to one another is fundamental in that. So it's a lot of teaching and how to do that and encouraging it and speaking about it when they've done it well.
So what do you do to build that trust with your teammates? Because you've got students who are leaving, student athletes who are coming in, so
Yeah.
that trust has to be built. So what exercises do you do to help build that trust among your team?
Yeah, great question. I've been so fortunate that the team culture, the girls that have come in, 14 young women, right, Maddie? Like, in one place, a lot, it's that can be difficult. So and you're right, we graduate, 3 or 4 seniors at a time. Team. It is a brand new team. It feels different, there's new faces, the dynamic changes, but we have core values as a program, and so we talk a lot about those core values. They're up in our gym, they're in their locker room. On Saturdays, we give examples of those core values that have been demonstrated throughout the week. So there's a lot of talk about that, so it's in their head a lot, and we do a lot of work with the freshmen to teach them. We do some education with our leaders, so then they're leading the freshmen, because the culture really comes from the young women. I can teach and I can preach and I can try my hardest to get in with them, but it really is the young women that make up the culture. So just a lot of talk, a lot of education. We use a lot of outside resources because I am not the end-all be-all. Like, I can do my best, but they get sick of hearing from me, you know what I mean? They hear from me every day. So we bring in other resources, other people to talk about our culture. What does that mean? How do we build trust? We do a lot of team activities the first 2 weeks of our season. We're just around each other a lot, just having small talk and sharing stories and just getting to know each other on a personal basis. A lot of that radical candor is building the foundation of a personal relationship. Because if you have a personal relationship with someone, if you trust them, if you've shared with them, if you've felt a little bit vulnerable with them and vice versa, you feel somewhat connected to that person, or more so. And then from there, you can really build a solid relationship, and then that trust comes into play, and that healthy competition comes into play. But it's putting in the time to build, and then sustaining that foundation too. So, you know, our season gets crazy, and these young women are taking hard classes, and their schedules are very busy, but we try to sneak in some fun team activities and just some talks with one another. We try to have team meals on the road without cell phones, just so we're connecting. So we kind of revisit that culture and that foundation that we've tried to build. Mm-hmm.
So Lisa, I was curious, I think one of the things that you're alluding to, you're not actually saying, but I think this room would help in here, is when you're in the gym as a gymnast, you're spotting each other. You're physically holding each other's lives in your hands. And so there's a very, very different relationship. It's a competition, yes, but it's also you're in together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the tactile
Yeah.
really changes the dynamic.
Yeah, it is a unique sport that way. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for having me. Happy